We are living in the transition to a new time, which will change everything. It will change how we communicate, how we work, how we live. In the agricultural age, the economy was mainly based on agricultural products. In the industrial age, industrial products and services, more and more sophisticated. But now in this new age, the base will be knowledge, data, and intelligent insights.
In WGS, and it's a wonderful experience. For Madagascar, our president, His Excellency Henri Rajoelina, is one of the leaders of digitalization in Africa, in less developed countries, I think. In fact, it was an occasion for us to experiment a digital surveillance. We developed an application called COVID Data during the pandemic, and in fact it was the first time that we were tracking the spread of the virus in the two main towns of Madagascar, Antananarivo and Tuamasna, in order to stop the spread of the virus, and we succeeded in it. And in fact, as it was the first experience, it was a success, and in fact we are now implementing a national wide surveillance. We have more than 3,000 healthcare facilities across the island, and in fact we bought tablets for all of these healthcare facilities, and now we are starting a nationwide surveillance in Madagascar. We are now starting also digitalization of the health structure, and electronic medical data is not used mainly in Madagascar, but we have to start somewhere, and the pandemic was an occasion for us to start it.
And so that builds on what we were hearing from the Minister of Brunei, speaking about digitalization and democratizing access to healthcare. And health disparities were, of course, I imagine, at the forefront of your mind during that time. So very interesting to hear from yourself there, Your Excellency.
We're really going to have to either merge with AI or be left behind.
Like a plug in my head that's going to fit into a hard drive? Like, or how does that work?
Yeah. A chip and a bunch of tiny wires.
This would be implanted surgically, and it would do what? Could you input? Could you download Jim?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Basically, an effort for man to merge with machine in a healthy way.
Yes.
To beat machines, you basically have to merge with machines.
Most likely, yes. The merge scenario with AI is the one that seems like probably the best. Like
for us.
Yes. Like if you can't beat it, join it. Join it.
Wake up, because the government is coming for your data. This is probably going to be the most important 6 minutes and 40 seconds of your 2025. Not just your future data, your past data too. Everything you've bought, every website you've visited, every location you've been to, every financial transaction you've made, they want it. And they are changing the law so they can legally take it, use it, and share it without your permission. Now, I know what you're thinking. Who's this guy? What's he talking about? That sounds illegal. They can't just take my data. Ding, ding. It was illegal, so they are now changing the law to make it legal. And you can see it right here. It's called the Parliamentary Bills Data Use and Access Bill. It was last updated on the 13th of February 2025 at 1641. So far, it has gone through the entirety of the House of Lords. It is now in the committee stage in the House of Commons, and I'll bet you have not heard a single thing about this in mainstream media. Unless, of course, you follow me on TikTok and watch the video I did on this 4 months ago when it entered Parliament. No? I suggest you pay attention now. And And let's make this abundantly clear. This isn't some online safety policy or a vague data protection law. This is a 270-page government bill quietly running through Parliament while everyone is too distracted by tax rises, net zero policies, and the usual media circus to notice. It's called the Data Use and Access Bill, and if you don't understand what's coming, you're in for a very big shock. So let's explain this in simple terms, because I'm not some high-end lawyer who sits reading through hundreds of pages of government legal jargon just for the fun of it. No, what I do is use AI to rip these documents apart, extract what actually matters, and expose what's buried inside. Because let's be completely honest, who has time to decode 270 pages of legal jargon? And when you strip away the fluff, this bill is one hell of a power grab. But what does the bill actually do? Because this isn't about protecting your data or making life easier. This is about total control over digital identity, financial transactions, and online access. And it expands government control over data access. It introduces centralized digital verification, fingerprints, face scans, and iris scans, and it lets them go back years and retrieve past transactions, purchases, and digital history. And it aligns perfectly with EU digital identity laws. Because we left the EU, right? We weren't automatically subjected to their data control laws that they're pushing on the other 27 countries. So what's the UK government doing? Copying them anyway. But we were supposed to be free of EU overreach, but instead, our own government is aligning us with Brussels under a UK branded version. And you won't hear a word about this in mainstream media until it's passed through. So let's talk about how far this bill goes. Let's break it down section by section. First up, we've got data access expansion. They're going back years. This bill doesn't just apply to your future data, it actually gives the government legal access to your historical digital records. Purchases, transactions, financial history, they can dig back years into your past. So if you ever thought your old transaction were private and long forgotten, you better start thinking again. Then there's the DVS, the Digital Verification Services. Welcome to mandatory biometrics. The government is building a centralized digital ID system, and it will require facial scans, fingerprints, iris scans, and biometric data for verification. And let's be real, you've been trained for this. You unlock your phone with your face, you use your fingerprint to approve payments, and you ask Alexa for your shopping, your weather, and your news. Well, they now have all of that. The government is formalising it all into a legal framework in a centralised system. But don't worry, it's not like they're tracking you, right? It's not like they're listening to you, right? Wake up. They're going to have everything you've ever done. And then there's...
Buckle up, fellas and ladies. It's about to be a bumpy ride. It is about to be a bumpy ride. Check this out.
Having seen that person commit the crime, even though that person's utterly innocent, that it becomes a planted memory. And so there's some really interesting research that we can plant false memories in the brain. And in a different context, one of the emerging areas that's really interesting in law neuroscience is pain detection. And once we understand the circuitries that cause pain, I guess the question is, could we then instill pain and use that in many coercive measures in the legal system as well? So.
Wow, that's amazing. Did you want to add anything, Brian?
How is that amazing? What in the sci-fi SHIT is going on here, right? Implanting fake memories into people and torturing people without physically doing it, but, you know, messing around your brain. That is... Check this out.
Government has a responsibility to try and encourage people to embrace digital ID and digital ways of working. Now, that's not to mean that you exclude everyone, and that has to be done in a proportionate approach and very careful to ensure that we don't exclude people. But if we're going to have better public services, then we're going to have to embrace technology, and that means taking citizens with us. That's not me saying mandatory digital ID cards tomorrow, but it is me saying that government should be trying to nudge the citizens in this direction.
So the thing is, human rights are not just for the majority, they are for everybody. And digital inclusion is not only about creating routes for people who are offline to come online, it's about accommodating those who are not online, whether that's due to age, disability, financial circumstances, or their choice. We all have the right to opt not to share our data in that way. That's extremely important. We cannot exclude the rights of marginalized communities just in the interest of the majority. Another aspect that we haven't even touched on yet, which is significant, is security risks as well. And so capturing this sort of data on such a mass scale introduces inherent risks. There will be situations where we will see data breaches. There will be situations that, our systems will be more vulnerable to hackers. In a worst case scenario, we could see this used for mass surveillance. And again, this isn't taking place in a vacuum either. Just last week, we saw worrying moves by the UK authorities now to enact mass surveillance powers granted in investigatory powers, ordering Apple to create an encryption backdoor. We're weakening online protections at the same time that the government then wants to capture more of our data. That is alarming. And so it's right to advocate.
That's exactly what I want to do. It's not even like a worst case scenario type stuff. That is the main scenario. Mass surveillance. They want to surveil you out the wazoo. See? All this whole talk about digital this and digital
UN agenda.
So why don't we dive into the real motive behind the climate change narrative, which is, unsurprisingly, the construction of a new
disease.
There's another clip.
Having seen that person commit the crime.
What we have to confront is a deep, systemic, and structural restructuring of our world. And this will take some time. And the world will look differently after we have gone through this transition process.
Can you translate that for us? What is he really talking about?
He's talking about us essentially giving up individual national sovereignty and giving up individual freedoms and turning over rule to experts. In fact, at his meeting in Davos, he said he looked at everyone in the room, and these are billionaires, millionaires, corporate heads, government bureaucrats, Hollywood celebrities, the royal family, Bill Gates. He looked at everyone and he said, we have in this room, we get to decide the future of the planet. I mean, that's the kind of maniacal James Bond villain attitude he actually has. So what's significant, though, about this G20 speech you just played, Ali, he is now being treated as a head of state. It's now a nation state. It's reached that level status at a G20 summit where he can go up there and talk about radical restructuring, systemic restructuring of the planet, and he gets literally the same VIP treatment. And what's amazing about that is, how did he get to this position of power? Well, in the book I go back, it's founded in 1971, and the key to the way the World Economic Forum is so powerful, they found a way for businesses, academics, and lobbyists and fundraisers to meet with politicians off the books, outside the purview of lobbying, regulators, any oversight. And they have these annual meetings, and it's a free-for-all where you get corporations, government, celebrities, academia, all together, and they're meeting, they're talking, I hate to use the word conspiring, but they're planning. And this is how you end up with things like environment, social governance, ESG. This is how you end up with all of these corporate mandates. And what ultimately comes out of this, and this is the simplest way of looking at it, the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum, this whole agenda is to make it so we have no choice on some of the biggest questions of our lives, and just even down to the smallest. And here's a few examples. We didn't get to vote on whether gas-powered cars would be banned. We didn't vote for vaccine mandates. We didn't vote for lockdowns. We didn't vote to have churches closed. We didn't vote to have schools closed. We didn't vote for mask mandates. We didn't vote for banning of meat. But all of this is happening because at these meetings, like the World Economic Forum and the United Nations, they meet and they work with government corporate collusion to bypass democracy. And in a simple sentence, the Great Reset is basically making the once free West copy the same model as one-party Chinese authoritarian rule. That is the Great Reset. They bypass democracy and impose stuff through this corporate government fascism, and we get told what's happening. We don't get to vote on it. There's no hearings in Congress. There's no town halls. There's no switchboards lighting up for a big vote. None of it. We're just told the car's gone. Your meat eating's going. Yeah. We're creating energy shortages. You're sorry, you need a vaccine to go into this place. Sorry, your schools are closed. Sorry, your churches are closed. What? Huh? How did that happen? The Great Reset.
Yeah. I mean, can it get any more clearer than that? That reset and everything is bad enough. You got to pay tax on everything. I mean, they've gotten away with so much, right? In their mind, What is a few more steps gonna? It's not gonna hurt you. They've been taxing you on the tax. Have already been taxed, right? That is crazy. The last bit he said that he talks about democracy. Well, they've never really been a democracy. They've been a front, an illusion of democracy, right? Now they're just doing away with the facade of the democracy. They're going full on totalitarian, right? Fascism, whatever you want to call it, Marxist, all of that. They're going full on that. That is no more the pretense. The pretense is over. What you're about to get is the hardcore globalists coming at you from every corner, from all sides, right?
Having seen.
That's where you get this right
So
here.
why don't we dive into the real motive behind the climate change narrative, which is, unsurprisingly, the construction of a new economic system. You see, this strategy involves shifting to a carbon-based currency. It's quite logical if the aim is to control people, given that everything we do produces carbon. It basically gives them the ability to restrict your actions across the board, with no way to escape it. Climate change serves as the vehicle for this economic overhaul. It provides the public with a reason for the change, a beacon to follow, albeit a misleading one, but it also enables a global shift in currency systems. It's very, very sinister, yet very cunning, which is a reoccurring pattern with this entire agenda. Fortunately for us, their execution is clumsy, and more people are waking up to what's going on every single day. Now, if they were truly great with their execution of this plan, well, at that point, we'd truly be in trouble, but that's not the case, so we got lucky in that regard. I still think it's pretty wild that so many people fell for it, especially the environmentalists. It's a lofty idealism combined with a limited perspective. They have their heads in the clouds, man. I mean, for example, they host panels at Davos on monetizing nature every single year, and it's an abomination. Anybody that believes themselves to be some sort of environmentalist should be ardently against this corporatist agenda to subvert nature for profit. Well, I guess it's really leveraging nature against humans for the purpose of liquidating their personal wealth via taxation, but I'm pretty sure my point still stands. Anyway, here's the president of Singapore telling the World Economic Forum that he wants to put a price on everything in nature.
If we don't manage water well, if we let soil health deteriorate and you lose moisture in the soil, if you degrade the wetlands, you also reduce carbon sequestration, which accelerates global warming. And global warming then dries the soil, leads to further problems in the forests, and you get that vicious cycle. So we're dealing with something which the science is very clear on, but it must then be reflected in our governance approaches, in our policies, in our financing strategy.
And they always think when they say, "Oh, the science is clear on." How is the science clear? That's why they tell you to trust the experts, because you know there's no real clarity with the whole science and experts and things, right? That's why they want you. Don't go thinking about it. Don't go doing your own research. Just trust us in all the bullshit that we're spewing, the madness we're spewing, right?
Strategies, including some of the one of the very important areas of potential, which is developing the market for credits. Just like we've got carbon credits, we need to develop the market for water credits and biodiversity credits. And I'll come to that in a moment. Nature-based solutions are a big thing. They're an extremely important part of global warming mitigation, climate change mitigation. You can argue about exactly what percentage of mitigation should come down to nature-based solutions, but we know that there's so much good that arises from nature-based solutions that's not just about reducing carbon emissions or capturing more carbon, but also about all the other core benefits of nature-based solutions: reduce pollution, reduce heat, improved disease management, a whole set of other benefits. But think of nature-based solutions not just in terms of carbon. Think of nature-based solutions as a way of managing water, carbon emissions, and preserving biodiversity. Because if you think of them together, the ripple effect is much larger.
Now the gleeful commoditors at the World Economic Forum are championing water credits and biodiversity credits. These people want to use climate to justify inserting middlemen between humanity and every aspect of nature. If they could charge you for oxygen or stargazing at night, they would. End of quote. And
That's exactly what I mean. They've been, like I said, they've been taxing you on everything there is, and they've gotten away with it. They tax you on the tax have already been taxed, right? And they've gotten your title for 4D and all of that madness, right? You go to the store, everything you buy, everything you purchase has a tax on it. So they've gotten away with it so much that there shouldn't be anything like the IRS, but there is, right? So they've gotten it. They'll be like, why don't we take it a step further and tax you for water usage? I mean, it's bad enough you got to buy water. Isn't it crazy? You got to buy water and it pollute the water, so you can't just go out there and get water from directly from the sources, right? Unless you know how to go about it. You can't just go to any river or brook and get a water, because it polluted everything. You drink it for your own, if you drink that, you on your own, man. And the madness this individual here is spewing. I think I lost a couple of brain cells doing that. We'll come back to this clip. There's still more to it. Before we go any further, right here, it says in Ecclesiastes, the 10th chapter and the 13th verse, it says, fools base their thoughts on foolish assumptions. As that dude you just saw there. It says, so their conclusions will be wicked madness. This is in the NLT. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodash. Double honors to apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth and continue to teach us this truth. Peace, salutation, shalom, shalom, shalom to all your brothers and sisters out there that of the household of faith, beginning with 144,000 mighty men of the house of Israel, down to the men, women, and children that are allotted to be delivered in this latter days, to all of the elect, to the brothers that are pushing this gospel in all sincerity and in all honesty, to you all I say shalom, which means peace to all of you. I mean, the one thing about the words that are written in the Bible is it cuts through everything. That's why the scripture talks about the word of the Lord. It's like a double-edged sword, cutting through everything there is. It will cut even you that is using the word, right? Because sometimes you read something, you get cut, in the sense that the words that are written in the Bible shines light on your own incompetence, if you will, right? So that's how powerful this word is. And here we have in Ecclesiastes, the 10th chapter and the 13th verse, it says, fools base their thoughts on foolish assumptions. So from Elon Musk, all the clips we've seen, Elon Musk trying to brain chip everybody so you'll be on par with AI and all of that madness, right? To the digital god himself. What is his name? Klaus Schwab, right? Talking about restructuring and doing this, and we're about to move into a new age of this and that. And he gave the example with the agricultural age and the industrial age, and now we're going into something else. And he came up with that book during the pandemic about the Great Reset, right? That's what they want to do. All that talk, you have to have water credits, you have to have this credits, right? Programmable money, this 15-minute cities where you'll be sectioned off in one zone, just like in the Hunger Games, right? They have their districts. You just be in your district until it's time to play the games. Let the games begin, right? All this craziness that goes on in their mind, all these foolish assumptions. Now they're talking about, climate change is going to kill us all if we don't do something. And that's nothing but foolish assumptions, man. That's exactly what it is. So that's why it says here, fools base their thoughts on foolish assumptions. So their conclusions will be wicked madness. The 14th verse, it says they chatter on and on. That's exactly what you see in all these meetings. The Davos meetings, the G20 this, summits, and the summit that, and, Bilderberg groups, and the Club of Rome, Trilateral Commission. All of these factions that come together to come up with all these so-called plans for like it says here. It says they chatter on and on. No one really knows what is going to happen, right? What did that dude say? He said the science is clear on that. If we don't do this, if we don't do that, the earth is going to implode, and there will be no this, there will be no that, and right? Well, the scripture is telling you no one knows what is really going to happen. All your fake ass science, your pseudoscience, rather, that's exactly what it is. You don't know what is going to happen. If anything, you're pushing an agenda. That's exactly what you're doing. As for you knowing for certain, you don't know, but you sit up there and talk like you know for certain. Friggin' bastards, man. It says no one can predict the future, right? There's no way for you to predict the future. You don't even know if you're going to be here, right? You can't predict the future. The only thing you can go is to break down the prophecies that are written in the Bible, because it's already been told to happen. If you're speaking outside the perimeters of the Bible, outside the confines of the Bible, guess what? You don't know what you're talking about, right? F your science. The science is sure on that, bald head ass MF, right? Talking all that crap. I mean, this guy's pissed me off, man. If they don't piss you off, man, I don't know what the hell to tell you. They annoy the heck out of me. Like, who died and made you a boss? Look at the earth under your watch. The other clip, the Malay, I believe it's like Malaysian. I don't know where he's from, or is it Madagascar or something like that? Talking about digitalization of everything, right? And he, talked about how the pandemic was a very good opportunity for them to get it all up and running. Like the old saying, they have that saying, never let a good crisis go to waste. That this is why they themselves, they orchestrate this crisis. Why? So they can usher in a whole new way of living, this restructuring, this great reset, this agenda 2030, this NWO, all of that, right? That's exactly what it is. So let's go back here real quick.
And yeah, 100% right. All right, up next we have the head of the EU reinforcing the monetizing nature plan. We'll get to the Trump speech at the end, but he did withdraw from the Paris Climate Accords again, and it was a hot topic at this year's event. Ursula von der Leyen was particularly displeased and mentioned it a few times.
Ladies and gentlemen, the coming years will be vital, well beyond Europe. All continents will have to speed up the transition towards net zero and deal with the growing burden of climate change.
Just like the other clip you saw, he's like, nobody asks you about this. They just come together and start talking all this crap, right? All these corrupt individuals that most of them went to Epstein Island. They have nothing but skeletons in their cupboards, right? Who elected these individuals? They'll just sit there and talk about, we have to come, the whole continent and the whole world got to come together and do this and do that. What the F are you, man? Right? Who are you to say all these things? You evil MFer, right? But that's what they do. They just assume, the scripture we read earlier, the assumptions, right? Talk all this crap, which is nothing but empty, sweet nothings. Their words hold no weight. But guess what? They're about to turn the world upside down based on this lies. Nothing but lies, man. They will look you straight in the eye and lie to you like it's nothing.
Its impact is impossible to ignore. Heat waves across Asia, floods from Brazil to Indonesia, from Africa to Europe, wildfires in Canada, Greece, and California, hurricanes in the US and the Caribbean. Climate change is still on top of the global agenda. From decarbonizing to nature-based solutions, from building a circular economy to developing nature credits.
There you go.
The Paris Agreement continues to be the best hope for all humanity. So Europe will stay the course and keep working with all nations that want to protect nature and stop global warming.
Alright, so she says she wants to decarbonize the entire West, she wants nature credits, economic degrowth, and a circular economy. She claims these are the best shot for the quote-unquote global agenda. And the reason? Well, if you put those together, they usher in a new form of government.
That's that restructuring. Your main man, Klaus Schwab, was talking about restructuring this and restructuring that. That is the Great Reset. They're about to, you wake up one morning, nothing is as it used to be. That will mess a lot of people up, and a lot of people are not prepared for it. Just like that movie Take Shelter with that actor. Damn, I can't think of, is it Michael something? I can't think of his name right now. He had a dream. The dream wasn't really a dream, it was a vision. He got this vision about this storm that is coming, right? And they had this community meeting, right? And he was in the community meeting telling them there is a storm coming, right? They were looking at him crazy like, man, this dude has lost his effing mind. He's telling them there is a storm coming and not a one of you is prepared for it. Because the powers that shouldn't be, there is no telling how far they will go to achieve their crazy ass agenda. Even if they got to burn this whole world. I mean, that's exactly what they're looking to do anyway, right? It says from the ashes we'll build a new world, right? They have to destroy it to build a new one. That is the restructuring. This whole present system will collapse, the economic collapse. Everything will have to grind to a halt. You see? And people are not prepared for this. You try to warn people, they look at you crazy. They look at, man, call you all kinds of names. Oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. He's lost his effing mind. They should put him in the loony bin and forget about him, throw away the key. Right? That's how they feel. Which brings us here real quick in Jeremiah, the 6th chapter and the 10th verse. It says, to whom can I give warning? To whom? A lot of warnings are going out. Are you taking heed? Are you listening to it? Are you just playing around with it? Right? It says, who will listen when I speak? Who is going to listen when I speak? Are you really going to listen? Because there's all kinds of information out there for you to be willfully ignorant. Ignorance is no bliss. Just because you're ignorant of something doesn't mean it wouldn't affect you. Right? Because this whole agenda they're applying, look at them sitting in this great audience, right? There's nothing but the movers and shakers of this world talking about the future that will directly affect you. And someone take out their time to inform you about these things. You look at them crazy. You call them silly. You call them all kinds of names. That's what he's saying here. Who will listen when I speak? It goes on. Their ears are closed. You see that? And they cannot hear. Their ears are closed off. That's why he says a hard head will make a soft ass, right? When words can teach, adversity will. If giving you warning wouldn't wake you up from this comatose state you're in, right? Guess what? When the adversity comes, when all hell breaks loose, you will be the first one, like the first wave will totally crush you. A lot of people are not prepared, man. They're still in TikTok land and social media arguments, right? It's a friggin' freak show in social media, right? Social media arguments and this and that and calling all kinds of names. Meanwhile, there's this tsunami coming. And you're just out there playing around. There's this tsunami of hell coming your way. You have no clue how things are going to change, how hard things are going to be. It will be like something out of a horror movie. They've made a lot of movies about it. This is their own way of the revelation method, right? They got to inform you somewhere, somehow. It says, their ears are closed, and they cannot hear. They scorn the word of the Lord. They don't want to listen at all. So you try to tell them this. It's already been written in the Bible that things like this are going to happen. They look at you crazy. And they have the nerve to call themselves Christians. So-called Christians are lost in the sauce, man. You know, a lot of all these so-called Christians, they are lost in the sauce. Go to church. All they got to do is go to church every Sunday and give their offerings and tithes and whatnots and think, oh, it's all hunky-dory. Nah, it is not all hunky-dory. There are things that are required of you. And when all hell breaks loose, you will feel the nasty heat of it. Why? Because you've been lollygagging. Straight up.
Have you ever laid your eyes on the proposed global government structure? Well, here it is on the screen. Yep, the one world government managed by the UN and central banks, with organizations like the WEF and the Council on Foreign Relations near the top. Policy would be rolled out by NGOs and corporations, pretty much exactly what they've been up to for years now. Nations are seen as the policy enforcers, so national sovereignty goes out the window, leaving you at the very, very bottom. Yeah, you're the policy subjects. And as I mentioned, she also brought up the circular economy. And just so you know, that's just a fancy way of saying you'll own nothing and be happy. Yeah, it's all about the renting economy. So, no ownership at all. Sounds awful. But that's the gist of it.
You will own nothing and be happy. Man, what they are pushing, sorry to keep stopping there, but I got to bring the scripture out real quick. This is Micah, the 2nd chapter, and the 1st verse. It says, what's the subheading says, judgment against wealthy oppressors. Every individual you saw where the Davos meetings, and nothing about wealthy oppressors. Talking about water credits. How much oppressive can it get? Right? It's bad enough that rent money is to pay rent. You got to decide, am I going to pay rent or buy groceries? It's bad enough. This is what it's come down to. Now look at that. They're trying to take it a step further. Carbon taxations and things like that. Right? Has nothing but wealthy oppressors, man. It says, what sorrow awaits you who lie awake at night thinking up evil plans. You see that? That's exactly what they do. How are we going to F this world up and come up with a solution that will be even way worse than the problems we created? This is what they do, thinking up evil plans. How are we going to get the people to subject to our rule, to bend, totally abandon everything they own? You will own nothing and be happy. That is an evil thought. That's a very evil plan. How the hell will you own nothing and be happy? Like, what kind of state are they looking to get you to be? Okay, I own nothing, but I'm just gonna be happy. Just give me a couple shots of the juicy juice, and oh man, I'm good now. You see? It says you rise at dawn and hurry to carry them out. Carry what out? Well, the evil plans. That's why you see them in these meetings, talking about how quick they got to hit the Operation Warp Speed and things like that, right? It's simply because you have the power to do so, because the power has been given unto them to do all of these things, right? It says, when you want a piece of land, you find a way to seize it. What is that? That is that you own nothing and be happy. They will take everything. They'll find a way to take it and somehow get you to be happy about it. Isn't that crazy? It says, when you want someone's house, you will take it by fraud and violence. That is that you will own nothing and be happy right there. Like when I says the scripture covers everything, man. The Bible, the words are already in the Bible. It covers every aspect of the life we live in. It says you cheat a man of his property. Come on now. It says stealing his family's inheritance. So the things that have been passed down from generation to generation. This oligarchs, this globalists, this Marxist individuals, total POSs, pieces of shit, right? That's exactly where they are. They would take it away from your family inheritance, and somehow they want you to be happy, right? They want you to be okay with that. So it goes on here. So, but this is what the Lord says: I will reward your evil with evil. Who's it talking to? Well, the wealthy oppressors. It says, I will reward your evil with evil. You won't be able to pull your neck out of the noose. Oh man, talk about Nuremberg 2.0, right? Well, the Lord is bringing this Nuremberg, which will be nothing like anything you've ever seen. Their necks are about to be on the chopping block because of all of the wickedness they've done, right? The population, what haven't they done, right? They managed to pollute the water that was supposed to be good for us. Now they sell you some crap in a goddamn plastic bottle. Fuck out of here, man. It says you will no longer walk around proudly, right? Look at them, man. They have all kinds of millions in their accounts. So they're good. Walking around proudly, talking all this crap, how they're going to monetize this and have you nature credits. Just you have to pay just to be alive. Come on now. It says, for it will be a terrible time. It will be a terrible time. Well, let's get back to this. Put a little bit more.
They're crafting a regulatory noose that chokes off your future, leaving you high and dry.
Talk about noose, right?
However, did you also catch the part where she outright lied about natural disasters too? Take wildfires, for instance. They create a problem through either incompetence or intentional sabotage, and you can decide which camp you're in on that one. However, but then, they leverage those crises to push for absolute control over individuals. It's diabolical. They're even exploiting climate change as a pretext for massive social engineering, nudging the population towards behavioral changes. That brings us to this guy right here, William Marshall, the CEO of Labs, and he wants to invoke behavioral changes in the masses so they fly less and stop eating meat.
Also, this is, we can work on the big institutions and we can work on periods of time when we decide, behaviorally, when we decide something is important. We still evidently haven't decided climate is really important. But that's a behavioral shift that could happen very quickly, as has happened on gay rights and women's rights and so many things before. So I think we've got to keep shouting about it until we make those changes. And I think that we could see a big change very quickly in behavior, like flying less or eating less meat and other changes that you can do very simply that have a huge impact on our climate.
Now, naturally, none of this applies to the rich.
Exactly. So when they talk about all this stuff, who do you think they're directing it to? You flying less and all that crap, right? They're still going to be flying around. All the private jets they own, you think they're just going to destroy them? All the yachts and their luxurious cars. A lot of them don't even drive electric cars. That is for you. The EVs, that's for you to get torched in. A lot of this electric cars, they'll be going up in flames. And if you somehow get caught in the cars when it goes up in flame, that's your ass right there. Because you'll be burning with a damn car. Because it locks you in that car. You just die right along with the car. Right? This is what they're doing, man. This is what they are doing. So rules for you, not for me.
Because they want to create carbon markets, in which rich people can simply pay a fee directly to the government and continue living their lavish lifestyle. They call it offsetting carbon. It's a classic two-tiered society. They spin it by saying, hey, poor people could sell their surplus carbon to the rich and make a little bit of extra money. Isn't that great? Yeah, not really. So you could be living in a shack with no frills whatsoever, saving up your carbon credits to then sell them on the market to someone like Bill Gates or Selena Gomez. Yeah, so they can jet off to Italy and pick up some Balenciaga bags or some shit. I don't know.
And go to the Epstein Islands, because it'd be out of your mind to think it was only that one they got. Because they got a lot of them. Epstein's Island was just one of them. One of many, probably the least of many, right? Believe that?
But anyway, you get the picture. Not great. But let's move on to digital ID, where plans for censorship and CBDCs loom large. Just keep in mind, these three agenda items are connected, all hinging on the digital ID system to exert total control over our lives. So why don't we start with the EU Commissioner talked about his plans for a digital ID system throughout Europe, a move that could well be the linchpin for a whole new era of surveillance.
One other thing, Commissioner, let's just take the number of European countries which do not have digital biometric access at the border point for non-EU EEA. Now, if the UK, with all its inefficiencies, can manage to let the US, Australia, blah, 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 use biometric machines, why can't Germany?
I will answer directly to your question. By 2026, already most of the countries are ready to implement that. And by 2026, the rest of the countries will be ready. And throughout the European Union, we will have digitalization in our ports, in our entrance, everywhere.
Did you get what this guy is talking about, this is even less than a year. This is how quick they're looking to achieve this, right? That's why all throughout this clip is digital this and digital that. This is where they're going. And once they establish this digital prison planet, guess what? You are effed. To put it mildly, you are totally effed. You see? Because now, all they got to do is, if you're a dissenter, they label you this, you're in trouble, man. You can't fly nowhere. You can't go nowhere. You can't even go to the shopping malls and buy anything. They've been programming the people of the self-checkout. You wouldn't even have to pay. You just got to go in there, pick up everything, and facial recognition system will pick up your face and automatically take the paycheck out of your account. Take the money out of your account, the bill out of your account. You see? And imagine when you come in and they label you some bad guy. You can't even say nothing bad about the government. It's only going to be the narratives that will be pushed. And if you come up with another narrative, guess what? You won't be able to buy nothing. You won't be able to go nowhere. You won't be able to even live in a house because you'll be locked out. That's the 15-minute cities. It will all be digital house, right? Once you go, it'll be like a prison. Once you go in your door, the door automatically locks itself in. That's a smart homes. It's not going to open again until whatever time they deem. Man, where they're going to take this, a lot of people are not ready, man. And it's this close. We are this close to it.
Airports. Okay, but which will make things faster and easier for travel.
You see that? So he gave you this mouthful of terrorizing stuff, like real scary stuff. Then he tried to soften you up. Hey, it's gonna be more easier to do this and do that, right? Convenience. That's how they're always gonna try to soften you up with that, right?
So by 2026, just 1 year from now, they're aiming to have biometric IDs logging your every move at all points of entry, all airports, and undoubtedly all businesses in the future. You know, he sells it under the guise of convenience, but beware, because at some point, the convenience you demanded will become mandatory for everything. Yep. And why do I say that? Well, here's the kicker. Digital ID is the backbone that ties your everyday activities directly to the prying eyes of the government. In a bit, we're going to watch a clip where the head of the EU Central Bank practically claims that the government's going to safeguard your privacy. But here's the reality. The government is the biggest threat to your privacy. Simple as that. Yeah, the digital ID system is the dark heart of our modern dystopia, the core of a massive surveillance system, silently collecting your personal data from government files, shopping habits, internet history, location tracking, and to monitor social media too.
Which brings to mind the other clip we saw. The dude that was going in talking about how they're looking to pass a bill that will collect all your data, even from the past history, right? Everything you've done online since you've been on internet. They want to know about it. They want to have that record, that data on hand. See how crazy these guys are? What do you want to do with all of that information? Yeah?
It's also going to be woven into the very fabric of smart cities, notably within the C40 Global City Agenda. It's going to ensure that you're always under watch, no matter where you go. This ID links straight to your finances too, enabling the government to levy fines and deduct them directly from your account for any so-called violation under the sun. It's basically a digital leash, with the ability to drain money from you at the flick of a switch. It's a chilling prospect, this omnipresent oversight, but I want to focus on censorship for a moment. The European blueprint for digital ID mandates a chilling integration with social media, explicitly aiming to destroy anonymity. This system ensures that any speech deemed unacceptable is immediately tethered to your real identity, enabling swift, direct punishment under their subjectively enforced speech regulations. With their subjective criteria for what constitutes the dreaded misinformation, the potential for exploitation is real. In fact, it's expected. We've seen it already. They are tyrants, and it's on full display, so there's no need to sugarcoat it. Now, in this new paradigm of control, those who dare to voice dissent or challenge authority could be systematically targeted, deplatformed, or worse. As an example, take this speech from the Prime Minister of Spain.
First, I propose putting an end to anonymity on social media. In our countries, no one can walk the streets with a mask on their face or drive a car without a license plate. No one can send packages without showing an ID or buy a hunting weapon without giving their name. And yet, we are allowing people to roam freely on social networks without linking their profiles to a real identity. This paving the way for misinformation, hate speech, and cyber harassment, because it is facilitating the use of bots and it is allowing people to act without being held accountable for their actions. Such an anomaly cannot continue. In a democracy, citizens have the right to privacy, not to anonymity or impunity, because with those two, social coexistence would be impossible. That is why I believe we must push forward the principle of pseudonymity as the functioning element of social media and force all these platforms to link every user account to an European digital identity wallet.
See the word he used, force. Man, it's about to be very real, man. This guy is about to go ape shit. Excuse my French. They're about to go buck wild to achieve all of this stuff they've been wanting to achieve, right? They're about to bring in this NWO, and what that entails is force. They don't mind if they're going to use force to do it. They will do it, right? And expect force. They want to use force. They want you on your knees, right? They want you on your knees. They want your soul crushed, right? They want you totally defeated. Mentally, physically, spiritually, they want you defeated to a point where you just give up, whether you die or whatever.
This way, citizens could use nicknames if they want, but in the case of a crime, public authorities will be able to connect those nicknames to real people and hold them responsible.
And who's going to hold them responsible, right? All this child trafficking that have been going around, a lot of them are responsible for that, right? Who's going to hold them accountable? Like I said, like even the narrator said earlier, the rules are for you, never for them, right? Never for them, because they are just as crazy as anybody out there and way worse. They are as evil as they come. Who is going to hold them accountable? All this stuff he's talking about is only for you, never for them.
Accountability is not an obstacle to freedom of speech. It is an essential complement to it.
Yeah.
On social media user, or it's much better to say, one social media user, one real ID. This is the only way to really ensure that minors do not access inappropriate content, that people who commit crimes are banned or prosecuted from social networks.
You see, minors don't access inappropriate content, but you have weirdos going to school and teaching minors, right? Telling a minor that a boy can be a girl and a girl can be a boy, right? How about that? You see? You know, they always use these fair speeches to try to convince you like it's for the greater good. Meanwhile, they're nothing but hypocrites, right? That is exactly what they are. They never practice what they preach. There's still a lot of indoctrination on the young minds, trying to get them to be nothing but vile individuals, right? But here he is standing talking about, oh, we got to make sure the minors don't access inappropriate content. Meanwhile, you efforts are there trafficking children and gain Adreno and Google Chrome from them and all that crap.
And that the millions of fake profiles that exist and influence the public conversation are removed.
And I quote, "We are allowing people to roam freely on social networks," end of quote. What a crazy thing to say, man. But I would also like you to remember that digital ID is the first step the Chinese government took to build a social credit system, and Europe is trying to follow suit. It's the same exact playbook. This entire agenda is based upon obedience or compliance, and the punishment is baked into the very foundation of it. But believe it or not, that's just scratching the surface, because it all gets much more sinister when you think about it in terms of the Internet of Bodies or transhumanism. In the end, years and years from now, they want everything connected to a single implantable device that will hold your digital identity.
Well, we just watched earlier, the individuals talking about 2016, it will be digital everywhere. It's just not something about years and years from now. We're, if not anything, months from now, right? Because they're going warp speed from this. This is exactly what they want. This right here.
Your health data, and your CBDCs. And in turn, your quote-unquote identity will include everything that can be known about you through surveillance via implanted biosensors.
That is your Internet of Bodies. That is your IOBs, right? That is your Internet of Things, right? The body and computer interface, brain-computer interface. This is all it is all about. To get you to accept the mark of the beast. This is where we at. This is exactly the main thing they are pushing. And here we are. It all goes back to biblical prophecies, and you have to be very aware of it. You have to know biblical prophecies. Let's end off here. This is Isaiah, the 32nd chapter, and the 5th verse. It says, In that day, ungodly fools will not be heroes, right? These individuals out there in Davos propping themselves up to be heroes, that they're looking to save the earth and stop global warming and climate change and bring about this restructuring of the world that will make everything all hunky-dory. Scoundrels will not be respected. That's exactly what they are. It says, for fools speak foolishness. Every individual we've watched, apart from those that's doing the exposing, right? All these crazy technocrats, oligarchs, right? Globalists, they're nothing but fools speaking foolishness. It says, and make evil plans. Yeah, we have it again. The NWO, the Great Reset, the restructuring, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, this digital identity bullcrap, digital wallet, the CBDCs, right? Universal basic income, Neuralink. This is nothing but evil plans. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Water credits, taxing you for your carbon footprints. Nothing but evil plans, man. So they practice ungodliness and spread false teachings. That's exactly what they do. Say, oh, the science is right on that. The science is, it's perfect. There's no denying it. Nothing but false teachings, man. It says about the Lord. I mean, he's going about the Lord, of course. Because here he's saying that the work the Lord did, because he created everything, right? It's not up to par. The sun is going to scorch us to death. You think the Most High that created everything, he didn't put that in perspective? The sun is where it's supposed to be so that it wouldn't overheat. Everything is where it is supposed to be. And then they come effing with nature. Who created HARP? There's something called HARP, right? You devils are the ones doing all the tweaking and all that shit, right? So they deprive the hungry of food. You will own nothing and be happy, and give no water to the thirsty. What did he say? They're looking to have water credits. Looking to monopolize water. And that's some shit. It says, the smooth tricks of scoundrels are evil. Just like the individual clearly telling you that they're looking to do away with free speech. But somehow he twists this and make it look like, oh, it's not an attack on free speech. Actually, it's complementing free speech. There's nothing but smooth tricks of scoundrels, man. Say are evil. They plot crooked schemes. Come on now. says they lie to convict the poor even when the cause of the poor is just. Man, the Bible is powerful, man. The words that are written in this book is very powerful. We are living in some crazy times, man. Just stay watchful and don't be easily distracted. And with that, all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Hakudash. Double honors to apostles and elders of Great Millstone. See you next time, Lord willing. Shalom. Shalom.